Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV and the Her Story Podcast. This is Gertrude Macha here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome to our tribe. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So for those of you who know me, I normally live in New Zealand. Right now, I am based in Melbourne, Australia. And this is a traditional acknowledgement of country because it's an honor for me to be here, be able to share these amazing stories from women from all over the world. So, my next guest, please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hi, my name is Sue Tidwell, and I live in rural Idaho in the United States, and I'm 60 years old, and I have just completed my first book. And I had no intentions of writing a book. It was never on my plans, but sometimes life takes you in certain directions, and that's what happened with me. I had always dreamt of Africa, and my vision was, a photo safari park and driving through and seeing all the animals and going back to a nice, safe, secure lodge. My husband had other ideas. He wanted to go on a safari deep in a remote section of the Tanzanian bush and where there were snakes everywhere and lions outside the tent. Quite honestly, it scared me to death. It wasn't what I had envisioned. And another problem that I had that I was concerned about was that my husband was planning on hunting some animals. He's a hunter. I understood sustainable use in America, with deer and elk and turkey, but I had a harder time grasping it for the exotic animals of Africa. So I was really troubled by that. All in all, I ended up going to Africa. And as scared as I was, and I'll be honest with you, I was scared a good amount of the time, but it was also the most exhilarating, most fantastic, life-changing experience that I've had in my entire life. I went to Africa because of the wildlife, but what ended up capturing my heart was the people. I fell in love with the people of Tanzania and of the Simba camp. We had 21 people in camp with us to take care of 4 of us. So I just came to know them as friends, and they shared their culture with us. I just came to understand how hunting, whether we like it or not, the sustainable use of resources is so important to them. If people can't thrive, the wildlife won't thrive. They're tied together. Conservation is as much a human rights issue as it is a save the animals issue. You can't separate one from the other, especially in places like Africa with the rural people. I just learned so much. I became friends with Lillian, our game scout. They send a game scout with every hunting party to make sure everything's done legally and everything's recorded. And our game scout happened to be a young female who could speak pretty good English. We developed a great friendship. She taught me so much about the country and about the people and the animals and about poaching and how much hunting helps alleviate poaching and how they protect the national parks with hunting concessions. There was just so many things that I learned, and just how it is just so much more. The people of Africa need to be able to use their resources, and there is a lot of stuff going on in the world right now who's not really who's trying to go against what the Africans want themselves, and it should be their decision as to how they run their country and how they use their resources. And so my love of Simba camp and the people there and Africa evolved into a book. I made a promise to Lillian before I left that I would try to help the world understand how critical the sustainable use of wildlife is and how wildlife is tied to the people thriving as well. Um, so I made this promise. I didn't know exactly at the time how I was going to fulfill that promise or what that meant, but it evolved into this book, Cries of the Savannah. So it's a fun adventure that takes you into the wilds of Africa, and you'll get to know the people of Misimba Camp. You'll get to fall in love with them like I do. You'll hear their stories, and you'll get to learn about the animals, and you'll get to see the other side of animals, how dangerous they're to live with. You'll hear the good things, but you're also going to hear stories of things that we don't consider from our living rooms, of how it's like to live with these animals that we adore from afar. So I just always want to encourage everyone to go outside of their comfort zone. If I hadn't stepped outside of my comfort zone and overcome my fear, I would have missed out on this whole opportunity, a life-changing experience. I can't even say enough how the cries of the savannah will change you. When you're laying in the tent and you hear the lions roar at night, and the hyenas and the hippos, you'll hear their bellowing, and the elephants going through camp. I mean, you're scared to death, but you just feel it's just so enlivening at the same time. But we have to recognize that those animals we love are not always easy to live with. We have to find a way that works for the people of Africa too. And that's, I think, what I learned more than anything. But so my book is basically, the Cries of the Savannah kind of has a double meaning. It's the cries, the literal cries, because I call it the African symphony. Every night was a little different. Some nights you'd hear a leopard barking. Sometimes you'd hear, almost every night you heard leopard or the lions and the hyenas. But every night was just a little different. So we call it the African symphony. So every night's symphony was a little different. So the Cries of the Savannah is a takeoff on the literal cries of the savannah, and then also the cries for the world to understand. So I just encourage people to step outside your comfort zone and open up your mind and look at viewpoints from another viewpoint, because you might look at things totally differently. I know it did me. It changed my life and how I felt about things. I just
Hey.
I'm going blank there.
Okay, no, it's all right. So let me start asking questions, okay?
Okay.
Like I said, we can edit. This is not a live thing.
Oh, great. Thank you.
All right. So Africa was life-changing for you. A lot of people who've never been there are not quite aware of the intricacies, the challenges that people experience on the ground. What was the 2-3 things that really hit you that you didn't expect when you got there?
Well, I'd say the most amazing thing that we take for granted is just water. I mean, water. I mean, we literally got our all of our water out of a 3-foot hole in the ground. It was a dry season, so they had to dig a hole in the riverbed, and the water seeped up through the sand, and they would scoop it out by the canful, literally, put it into bigger containers, carry it, heat it over a fire, carry it up a ladder into a tank underneath our tent, just so we could have a shower. Of course, once you find out what's all involved, your showers get a lot shorter. And I tell you, it changes you as far as you can't even brush your teeth now at home without thinking about the water you're wasting if you don't turn off the water. And you start feeling guilty if you get too long of a shower, even once you're home. So the water was a major thing. And just that all your chores have to be based on the safest time of day and keeping your safety in mind. Like, certain things you don't want to do in the morning or that evening, even though that would be the best time to do it as far as coolness goes. But that's the most dangerous time, because that's when the lions are active. I couldn't even go. I would like to go over to the hippo pool and watch the hippos. Sometimes we had a little time in the afternoon, and I'd want to sit by the hippos, but I couldn't go without a guard. I mean, I had to I thought I was safe from the hippos because I was up on the hills, but they said, well, Sue, the lions come in, the other animals come to drink, and the lions come in because they come to drink. So they had to send me with an armed guard. I mean, just things like that you just never consider.
Yeah. So I've been living in New Zealand for the last 21 years. And New Zealand is one of those islands that has no snakes at all. And each time I go back home now, I actually forget where I am. In Zimbabwe, there's snakes everywhere. And when I normally go into the village, I'm walking in the bush and people think I'm just crazy because I'm so used to not having to be aware that there's something else that's walking in the grass with me. So I can so relate to the whole issues of personal safety. Now,
snakes is one of the things I was most afraid of. I mean, it's terrifying the amount of deadly snakes over there.
Yeah. Very, very fascinating. It's not every day that I get to meet somebody who's been to my continent. It really excites me, and I'm really grateful that you are sharing this experience with other people through these videos and through your book. So if there was somebody who's listening to us right now, who's hesitant about going to Africa, they're fearful. There's a lot of stories that come out of Africa that paint a very negative perception. Based on your experience, what 3 nuggets of wisdom would you give them?
Oh, I just say, if you have an opportunity to go to Africa, get over your fears and just do it. I'm not saying you don't maybe do a little research, see what's happening in different countries, but there's this fear I think that people have that's, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I was greeted so warmly, and as long as you go with a reputable place and they meet you at the airport, they take you everywhere, I never felt unsafe in that way at all. I mean, I feared for snakes and I feared for lions, but I never feared for anything else. I felt very well taken care of. The people were very warm and loving and giving. The ones I met, at least while we were there, and we were there 3.5 weeks. So, but it doesn't hurt to research, I guess, a little bit, make sure where you're going, but don't pass an opportunity to go.
That's wonderful. Now, if time was an illusion and I could teleport you into the future, and you're going to have a conversation with the 100-year-old you, based on how you are living your life right now, what would you say to her?
I think I would be very proud, and just tell me, keep it up, even though it's very difficult at times. Because as a self-published author with not a huge following, and my first book, it's difficult to get it out in the world, and it's a lot of work, but it's doable, and I'm working really hard to give the African people a voice and for people to understand Africa and its people a little bit better. So I think I would just say, keep on going, even on those days that are frustrating and you feel like you're not getting anywhere, just hang in there, because you just never know the next thing around the corner. You just don't know what opportunity might pick up, or what person might have a book club and say, okay, let's read this book, and then it reaches thousands of people. I didn't do this for the money. I did this to make a difference. So, but it has to be out there to make a difference. So I would just be telling myself to keep on going, keep on going.
It is challenging. It is challenging because there's so much content out there right now. We're all competing as authors for the same clients, the same community. It is challenging, but I think there's now creative ways that we can get these stories out. You could read certain excerpts from the book and post them through video, and use TikTok and Facebook and LinkedIn. There's different ways that we can get our messages out, but I think the biggest challenge is growing your community. That is something that I help self-published authors with. There will be people out there who have a passion for Africa, who've been to Africa, who want to go to Africa, and your book becomes the light at the end of their tunnel when they're trying to find information. So I really admire what you've done. Don't give up. I've been there. I've written several self-published books, and this is a message to anyone else out there. The fascinating thing about being an author is it opens up so many doors in so many different ways. There is an organization called Volunteer VOS, Volunteer Overseas Service. You might want to get in touch with them. It's an international organization. Okay. They look for people who have traveled to the different countries to come and give lectures and talks. And you can do this online. You're connecting with a community of people who already have a passion to travel and want to hear from somebody who's been there and done it. I spread my book through Rotary clubs. So you might decide that a percentage of your sales will go to support the women in the village where you visited. Rotary International is what made my book a bestseller. If you go onto rotaryinternational.org, you can put in your zip code where you're living right now. You will find hundreds of Rotary clubs. They look for speakers every single week. I'm a Rotarian. People either meet in the morning at 6 o'clock for a breakfast meeting, they meet at lunchtime, or they meet in the evening. So I can guarantee, Sue, just in the town where you're living, you will find 10 to 15 clubs, and they're looking for speakers every single week. So just go onto their website, tell them you had a trip to Africa, you want to give a percentage of your proceeds to a philanthropic, a give back to the village where you were. And I ended up becoming a Rotarian. I used to sell 100 copies of my book a month just through Rotary clubs. Lions International is another one. Lions Club's focus is on people who are blind, but again, it's a social impact movement. They meet the same way Rotarians meet, and they look for speakers every single week. So this is really a message to anybody out there who has a self-published book. You're feeling frustrated, you're trying to grow your tribe, you're trying to get your message out. Be creative in terms of how you'll find those people. Tap into existing groups that have an interest in your content. Now, it looks like Sue has frozen. I will keep talking for a few minutes to see if she comes back.
I can see you.
Okay. Your video has frozen for some reason, so you might want to switch off your video and switch it on again. Let's see if that makes a difference.
Is that there?
You're still frozen. That's very interesting.
Huh.
Drop out of the call, Sue, and come back in again.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see you now.
That's weird. Yeah, okay. Because I can see you, but anyway. Sorry about that.
And that's why we pre-record these things, because technology can just play up and so many things can go wrong.
Well, we live in rural Idaho in a town of 800 people, so I'm not sure, how good the service is here. But anyway.
So let's finish off our interview. That was a few tips and ideas to any of you out there who have self-published your books. Be creative in terms of how you grow your following. Look for social impact movements, groups that meet every week, that need speakers. You will speak for free, but you definitely will sell books, especially if you give a percentage of your profit to a philanthropic cause.
Which I was planning on doing anyway, but yeah, that sounds good.
Thank you so much, Sue, for coming online and sharing your story with us. Don't go away.
Okay, well, thank you, Gertrude, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you to everybody who tuned in from all over the world. We are attracting some phenomenal go-givers. Sue's story is an example of somebody who had an experience, got changed because of that experience, and is now making a difference to empower other people through it. Thank you, Sue, for your work. And thank you for writing this book. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody, when I come back with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.